Hello everybody! Today we have an interesting radio program. We are going to talk about the Book Day. The 23rd of April was chosen to be the International Book Day because of the death of some famous writers.
One of them is William Shakespeare, who died on this day in 1616, but we are going to interview some people to know who William Shakespeare was and why he was famous.
Who was William Shakespeare?
William Shakespeare is one of the world's greatest writers. He wrote plays for the theatre and poetry too. Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon in England. Later he went to London to be an actor, but he became famous for writing plays.
Why is William Shakespeare famous?
Shakespeare lived more than 400 years ago, yet people still go to see his plays. Shakespeare wrote at least 38 plays. Shakespeare plays are performed all over the world. Students study Shakespeare in school and at university. There are Shakespeare theatres and Shakespeare festivals.
When did Shakespeare live?
Shakespeare was born in 1564. He grew up in England in the time of Queen Elizabeth I. His parents were John and Mary. When he was a child, he went to the town grammar school. The children had lessons in Latin, Greek, and history. They had to work hard. If not, they were punished.
What do you know about his life?
When he was a child, Shakespeare and his friends played in the fields. They went fishing and swimming in the river Avon. Young Shakespeare left the school by the time he was 16. In 1582, Shakespeare got married. His wife's name was Anne. Soon they had a daughter, Susanna, and 3 years later they had twins named Judith and Hamnet.
What do you know about Shakespeare's plays?
He wrote some long poems and lots of short poems called sonnets. Shakespeare wrote comedies, stories with a happy ending. One of the most famous is A Midsummer Night's Dream. He wrote tragedies, stories with a sad ending. Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy because the young lovers Romeo and Juliet both die.
As Romeo and Juliet was one of the most famous plays, we are going to read a summary of his plays, Romeo and Juliet.
This story begins in Verona, a city in Italy, where the quiet peace had been broken once again by an old argument. In fact, this fight was so ancient that no one could remember how it started.
The two families, the Montagues and the Capulets, hated each other and would literally fight to the death with the other family. The Prince of Verona was quite unhappy about the regular fights in the streets, so he decided to end their fighting by announcing a death penalty for the man who was to be seen fighting or who had killed another man. One young boy, Romeo, of the Montague family, had not fought that day, for his beloved Rosalind had left him, and nothing could cheer him, even his dear friend Mercutio and Benovi.
To make their sad friend smile a bit, they decided to go to a big party that the Capulets were holding. But Romeo was sad until he saw a beautiful girl looking at him.
It was instant love, but there was one problem. Juliet, the beautiful girl, was a Capulet, and Romeo was a Montague. This meant that instead of loving each other, they were supposed to hate each other.
That night, Romeo and Juliet made plans to marry at the friar's home, which was just out of town.
So in a few short days, Romeo and Juliet had gone from not knowing each other at all to a secretly married couple.
Of course, no one beside the fair Juliet's nurse and the couple themselves knew about this marriage, because Romeo and Juliet were supposed to eat each other. They did not tell their parents of this.
Juliet was told that she had to marry another man called Count Paris. In those days, girls did whatever their father said. So, in order to change this fate, Juliet went to the friar and got a potion to make her look dead.
Then the friar would go to Romeo and tell him that Juliet has life and waiting for him in her tomb, but the friar called her to Romeo in time, and the news of Juliet's death reached him instead.
Poor Romeo, thinking his Juliet's death, went to a pharmacy and got a bottle of poison. Then he went quickly to the Capulet's tomb, so that he could die by his beloved's side. Minutes later, Juliet awoke, seeing her Romeo dead. Beside her, Juliet took the knife and stabbed herself, ending her life before she had yet turned 15. Later, the parents of these unfortunate lovers came into the Capulet tomb and cried to see their children dead. The families had learned their lessons, and statues of the lovers were put up, and the Capulets and Montagues became friends after years of fighting. A beautiful love story, and that's all, my dear listeners. Thanks a million to be there every day.